Yo, what's up? So today I want to talk to you about the Canon 90D, which is what I'm filming on right now, and why I bought it even though people literally told me not to buy it. I'm at no point, I will just start this video off by saying that I'm in no way claiming to be an expert. These are just the reasons why I bought this camera, and I think at the end of the day it all just comes down to personal preference and like what your individual needs are. So anyway, the Canon 90D, let's go. Alright, so reason number one why I bought the Canon 90D is the size and the weight of it. And now I know it's 2019 and everyone's like, Rob, you should be buying a mirrorless camera. And that's fair, like I have a mirrorless camera. I've got a Canon M50 here, which I absolutely love, but it's just so small. And look at that grip. That's just, yeah, it's, no. The reason I wanted something that was bigger and heftier is because I do a lot of music videography. So it'll be at like live shows and stuff. It's not uncommon for me to get in the crowd and stuff and be in the middle of like a mosh pit with a camera. So I wanted something that was nice and hefty that I could hold on to. I've got the battery grip on this as well. So yeah, it's got a nice big surface area. I can get a good grip on it. I'm not getting it knocked out of my hands or anything like that. It's got a nice bit of weight to it. So yeah, I wanted something bigger and heavier just so it was a little bit more secure. I just feel like you could hold it when it's a bit bigger. You can get such a better grip on it in the sense of having stabilised handheld shots. I do a lot of handheld videography and photography, and yeah, having a bigger camera I find makes it loads easier to get like a stable handheld shot. So that was another thing that influenced my decision. Another reason why I bought the Canon 90D is it has this super cool fully articulated screen. So the screen comes out the side, tilts any which way you want to tilt it. One of the main reasons why this is a massive deal for me is that I do quite a lot of vlogging. I need to be able to face it towards me and put stuff in the hot shoe like Joe up here. So I need to be able to put like a microphone and a light up there, no worries. And like on a Sony a6400 for example, the screen tilts upwards and then that's just behind where like the light and mic are, so it's just so much easier to have it come out the side and tilt it anywhere you want. It's also really good for taking photos. If you're crouched and you're in like a really weird position, you can tilt the screen like any way. Another reason why I chose the Canon 90D is because it does shoot in 24 frames a second. It didn't come out with 24 frames a second, but Canon backtracked and put it in firmware later on. So once you get this camera, you can update the firmware and you can get 24p on this camera and it looks ace. I've shot a fair amount of stuff with the 24 frames a second and it looks dope. I'm really happy with it. So this camera does shoot 120 frames a second, but that's only with manual focus. If your lens is set to autofocus, you can get that autofocus to lock on. It's once you start recording, autofocus just it won't track anything or anything like that. Once you've locked onto the shot, you can then set it to manual focus and like adjust it as you go, which for like moving subjects and stuff, and if you're moving yourself, can become pretty difficult. But I've seen a lot of cool videos online of techniques and like tricks to sort of learn how to do it better. I haven't found this to be like a particular issue for me yet, but I do know once I put this camera in a gimbal, that manual focus is going to be basically useless to me. So that writes off 120 frames a second in a gimbal. Another reason why I chose a Canon 90D is for the battery life. I've got the battery grip on as well, so that's like double the batteries, and this could go for like days. On tour I could go literally days without charging it, and it does the job absolutely no problem. So the battery life was a really big selling point for me. So another reason why I chose a Canon 90D is for the familiarity of it all. I already shoot Canon anyway, and when I bought this camera I had about 3 days to get to know it before I left for tour. I knew I was going to be doing a lot of video work whilst I was on tour, so that also influenced my decision to a degree, because I already know how to use a Canon camera. Like the changeover from a Canon M50 like this to a Canon 90D, the menu system is pretty much exactly the same. Just a few more dials and buttons to get used to, but the changeover was super easy. So like I'd be at a show and I'd be swapping between 120 frames a second and 24 frames a second. and it's super easy. It's just in the menu system, I know my way around it to adjust the shutter speed and so on, so it all looks like fluid still. So it was super easy for me to navigate the menu system and stuff. You could also kind of chalk that up to laziness as well, I suppose. So this point is familiarity / laziness, because I mean, I could have learned to use a Sony or a Panasonic, but here we are. It's also worth me pointing out as well that I already have like a bunch of Canon lenses, and I already have an adapter so that the EF lenses fit on my M50. So hopping between what's now my A camera, the Canon 90D, and my B camera, which is the M50, is super easy to do. So all my lenses, just, it works really well. I'm in that ecosystem now, and that did influence my decision, to be honest, because it's kind of hard to jump to an entirely different ecosystem. If you're just starting out with photography and videography, then this is like a non-point really. It doesn't really matter, but if you're already in any kind of ecosystem, I feel like it always does influence your decision to some degree. So my last and my final point is personal preference, which is basically everything that this video is about. I needed something that was a step up from what I had, but something that I'd be able to get to grips with pretty quickly. I'm pretty stoked on the Canon 90D. I think I made a good decision. We'll see how I get on with that 120 FPS not having autofocus. I feel like that's going to be the only thing about this camera that's going to bug me. When taking photos, I think just the way a DSLR feels is so much nicer than shooting on any mirrorless camera that I've tried. Like the grip's really deep and you get a good hold on the camera. I started off with DSLRs in the first place, so I like the feeling of holding a DSLR when I'm taking a photo in particular. If I was to take photos on this M50, I don't like the grip at all. Like there's nothing to it. I know you can get cages for them and even like battery grips and stuff like that for like mirrorless cameras, but it feels totally different, and I just like the feel of a DSLR. So even in 2019, I still think a DSLR is a good option for me personally, because I just like the way that it feels. I like Canon, I like the way the colours look. If you're looking at the Canon 90D, the closest things to competition I found that I was kind of tempted by was the Sony a6400, mainly because it has 120 FPS with autofocus, and just because Sony for video and stuff tend to kill it. I also came very close to buying a Fuji X-H1, because you can get the camera with the grip for about £999 in the UK, so that seemed like a really good deal. It had in-body image stabilization, which is pretty dope. The lenses were like super expensive for the Fuji. There wasn't really there's no like third-party lenses that I could find, and the screen doesn't articulate in any way to face towards you, so yeah, that kind of just wrote off the vlogging aspect of it, and it kind of put me off a little bit. I think the next thing I'll consider will probably be a Panasonic, to be honest. If I get more into sort of video work and stuff, I would kind of like to dabble with like a GH5 maybe, but for the vlogging side of things, because of the crop factor, it wasn't an option for this camera that I needed to buy at the time. But if I was looking for a dedicated video camera, I'd probably go with the GH5. But anyway, I went with the Canon 90D. I'm going to stick with it. So if you're interested in this camera, then it might be worth subscribing to my channel, because for the foreseeable future, all my videos that I'm going to do and upload to this channel are going to be shot on the Canon 90D. So if you want to see what I do with it, then hit subscribe. Like this video if you enjoyed it, or if you found anything remotely useful in it. Feel free to drop a comment, let me know if you think I've made a terrible decision or if you think I've made a good decision. Let me know what camera you're thinking of getting next. Just come and say hello, innit? Just a little chat. Over here, let's go this side. Over here right now, I will put a link to a video from a vlog that I shot on the Canon 90D. It's from Fia Forest. It's a Halloween event in North Wales. It's literally in the woods, and there's loads of clowns and stuff, and there's also like the only alpine coaster in the UK, which had like a spooky makeover, and they kill the lights and things jump out at you and stuff, and I swore at an actor by accident because he got me real good. That was entirely shot on a 90D. It's also like loads of low light as well, so because they're cramming loads of pixels into that APS-C sensor, I was quite surprised at how well it did in low light. But anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm going now, so cheers for checking out the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!